Why's there so many of them sogging squigs around the camp? Have you boys been messing with the weird ones again? I told you they's got the power of Gork on their side, and I'm running out of grots to clean up the mess when you lot get zapped. Someone get the Umi Gits to shove these squigs back in the pen before they get eaten, and find out what the hell's going on in the Beast Snagger camp.
Welcome back to Here We Go, our regular article series looking at the latest upcoming releases for the Orcs. After delving into the legend of the Great White Squig last time, we're braving a particularly horrible fate to have a peek at the latest brand of greenskin psychic madness. Known as the Were Boys, these unsavoury characters channel Wah energy in its most primal, animalistic form, unleashing roiling storms of psychic energy through their foes that leave them as little more than shriveled husks or worse. Off the battlefield, the Were Boys take on what is possibly an even more important role in their tribes by using their pseudo-shamanistic powers to receive visions from Gork and Mork themselves. They spur their fellow hunters towards the biggest prey around with grand proclamations and barely coherent prophecies. So important is this role in guiding Beast Snagger society that they are granted a level of respect far above that of a regular orc psyker, seen as divine oracles rather than dangerous ticking time bombs like the Weird Boys. The powers channeled by these bestial psychers stand apart from the usual stomping feet of Gork and random teleportation employed by other Weird Boys. By far the most alarming of these is the ability to transform enemy soldiers into mindless, biting squigs who proceed to cause havoc among their own lines. Squiggly Curse, the Were Boy, cackles madly as he transforms the foe into a herd of squigs, the now terrified and confused beasts rampaging through their former comrades before bounding away. Witchfire, Squiggly Curse has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 12 inches of this psyker and roll a d6 for each model in that unit to a maximum of 6 dice. For each result of 4+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If any models in that unit are destroyed by this psychic power, every other enemy unit within 6 inches of that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Although the notion of exercising any kind of control over their powers is alien to the Orcs, Were Boys do achieve some measure of focus through ocular devices known as the Eyes of Mork. While each is as unique as the deranged mech boy mind that constructed it, these technological marvels all serve to amplify lances of psychic power through the caster's eyes, turning their gaze into a weapon capable of piercing even power armor. Eyes of Mork. With all the respect they're afforded, it wouldn't seem out of place for the Were Boys to have some kind of transportation on the battlefield, would it? Unfortunately, it looks like our time's up and we need to skedaddle before this guy decides he needs a few more red and bitey friends around. Join us again soon, where we're taking a closer look at exactly who will be arriving in the first wave of Orc pre-orders, and let us know what you're most excited for so far on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, that's the article from Warhammer Community again for the Here We Go series that I've been doing. So like always, I've read out the article to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Now we'll take a little bit of a closer look at what it says and we'll do some dissecting. Let's take another look at the Were Boy here and we'll try and break it down. So we've seen that skull before on the Beast Snaggers, basically the glyph in the background that's on the banner. So we have that arch with the lightning bolts on it. It looks a little bit like Age of Sigmar Stormcast, it reminds me of. But I guess that's to sort of represent the Wa energy that's coming into him. Then you have these bones underneath that. Sort of represents like a skull and crossbones. If you look at the glyph, that's sort of meant to represent a skull. And then you have those shoulder pads, I guess you could call them, or it's probably attached to his back, like blades in a way. Maybe they're even weapons of some kind that he uses. So that'd be pretty cool if they're weapons, so you can obviously grab them and put them in his hands, but he's sort of channeling the Wa at the moment. Now, a lot of the beast snaggers are quite scarred up, but this guy looks particularly quite scarred. Now, I'm not quite sure that huge pump or wires for. I guess it's what, to charge the Wa energy and maybe somehow capture it and use it for other purposes. It's quite interesting how he's got a mechanical leg, but I guess a lot of the beast snagger range has mechanical limbs, because obviously they're fighting big beasts quite a lot, so they're losing limbs. They're a lot more ferocious, I guess, in that nature, a lot more savage, I guess, than just your normal typical boys that are used to fighting humans and that sort of stuff. You know, those type would be quite gnarly, but beasts are going to be chomping and taking off limbs quite easily. Now that skull looks pretty cool. I like that. Adds a bit of a nice feature to it. And then it has like a pelt. Looks like a Squigs skin. That's what it's looking like to me. Now let's talk about, he's a chunky boy, this one. I quite like how the new orcs, you've got your Wart Snagger, which is quite a skinny, crazy looking orc. And then now you've got your new Gazskull, which is just staunch. In the buggy range, you've got quite a lot of different orcs. Some look kind of like hillbilly orcs almost. And then with the Beast Snagger range, you get all these different sort of sizes. It's quite nice though. This guy's sort of almost fat, but not quite fat. I mean, you can see that he's ripped, but he's a bit more chunky. Now I love that those goggles, whatever they called them, on his face, those orky tech parts, that looks really awesome. Now, he does remind me in some of the new orcs in the 40k range, they do remind me a bit of Gears of War, the Locust, the enemy aliens or protagonists that are in Gears of War. Not quite sure exactly what does it. I don't know if it's the techie parts that do it, maybe the way that they're designed now, the way their structure is, their posing, and the sort of the muscle and the skeleton of them. You know, the way they look basically overall, but definitely with that techie part on top of his head, he looks like a Gears of War Locust. Funny enough, when I was starting my orc army, I did wonder if I wanted to do them like Gears of War Locust, with a white sort of grey skin with some scaly looking parts on them. I just thought that might be kind of unique and whatnot. I have seen some people do some sort of, I guess, albino orcs or whatever these days, so I sort of leaned away from that a bit, and I'm a bit of a fan or traditionalist when it comes to green skin. You know, I like the green skins for green. Now let's talk about the vehicle that they mention in this article. So if no one worked it out, it's this big chariot battle wagon that they showed in the trailer for the Beast Snaggers originally. Now a lot of people complain with Games Workshop and not being dedicated to orcs or other factions. It's actually been a really awesome release because they showed this trailer and it actually, a lot of this stuff is what we're getting, which is really good. We're getting obviously new boys, Squigs, whatnot. Actually been quite exciting getting these Here We Go series that they've been releasing slowly over every couple of weeks. We're getting new articles and they're showing new models and new lore. Yeah, it's been really exciting and interesting how they've released this range for the new orcs. But yeah, there's our old mate Werboy on top there. You can see him with his weapons or that banner that he has with the symbols that are those lightning bolts that he has. So you can see that he's the main sort of character of this big vehicle. I said I didn't know what that big wire, that big pump was for. Possibly maybe he charges this big weapon with wire energy. Could be kind of interesting. Maybe the sort of lightning parts, he charges the wire energy, fills up the canister or his pump, and then he puts it into this big weapon and it fires out. But that's just sort of an assumption or just a cool idea that I had. Yeah, it looks like there's some saw blades on the side of this vehicle. And it's got obviously the big giant squig that's pulling it from what we can see. It looks like it's attached to the vehicle, and it has a really big jaw piece at the front, so it's like a big jaw of a beast of some kind. And it looks like it's some sort of transportation device. It looks like we get a couple of these orcs that are just riding along, just along for the ride. But it looks like a couple of these orcs have weapons as well, not the guy in the front, but a couple of people further back on this big beast of a vehicle. It looks like one of them's definitely got some kind of rocket launcher, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like this is going to be a really interesting beastie vehicle, and it's going to be awesome to build and paint, but it looks like it's going to be quite staunch in the battlefield as well. But I won't keep you much longer. I just thought I'd point this out for anyone that didn't notice and didn't click that this is what the Werboy is in and the vehicle that they mention in this article. But let me know in the comment section what you think of this release, this reveal. And did you know about the vehicle and him being inside it? Now, we have to see the rest of that Bone Boss. He was actually a rumour engine that I'll pop the picture up. He was the rumour engine that we got recently. Yeah, starting to get really close to this release now, boys and gits. So put in the comment section what you think of all this. Let's have a chat. Let me know what you think of this release and what this vehicle is. What it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be sort of like a battle wagon of some kind, but with Squig and Beast Snagger style. But like always, I appreciate you watching. This was G The Hypersapien, and I'll catch you all next time on another video of Here We Go!